Hello, and welcome to Wisdom of a Lifetime. I'm really excited about this episode because I'm going to cover manifestation. I think it's a really fascinating topic. Before I start, I would love for you to visit any of my social media channels and or subscribe to my website at wisdomofalifetime.com. So today I'm going to cover manifestation, and I think it's a really, really fascinating topic because for a number of reasons. The Secret was really big, the movie, and it really helped a lot of people to start thinking about, do my thoughts really create reality? Do they really have an impact on my reality? And from that movie, I think it went mainstream and the world really accepted that. But there's more to The Secret than more to manifesting than The Secret. And I'm going to cover that here on today's episode. So really, I think what's really important is what the sequel was trying to convey was that our thoughts really does impact, reality. And we know this from the other episodes on quantum physics. We covered superposition, we covered entanglements and many world theories and so on. And what we realize is that the small particles behave in very strange ways than the big, large objects we see in the universe. And I think what we're really starting to understand is that maybe our thoughts do have an impact. And for what I've talked about so far, I can guarantee you from my life experience, it does. And I'm going to talk about exactly how manifestation occurs. And there's many, many more processes than just thinking. It has much, much deeper realms to this. I'm going to cover it. So let's start with the first aspect of everything is desire. The ability to have a desire to have something and want something is the start of creation. So desire itself, if you just sit in a room and you just desired and desired and desired, it really won't make any difference because all you're going to do is just sit in a room and wish and dream and fantasize, but that is not going to create your reality. So the secret, I think somehow people walked away from the secret thinking that all I have to do is think and therefore my reality will change. And unfortunately, if it was that easy, then that we'd all be doing that. But in our physics and the way of the objective reality we live in, this physical universe, it operates very differently. And to do that, we really have to understand the laws of what governs our reality because it really is truly objective laws. And if we can harness those laws, then we can actually manifest what we want in our life. So let's start with our desire to want something is critical, but that alone does not do anything. And then other episodes, we talked about intention. Now, intention is very powerful. Intention is an internal process that takes the desire and start actually visualizing it and moving to a knowingness about what we really want in our lives. And then it's also that intention, which is internal to us, is conveyed and thought about and reflected and really put into our subconscious through the repetition of that visualization, the affirmation, and more importantly, that feeling nature of the knowingness of it's going to happen. Or it's happened actually. It's the knowingness of it's already happened that is the most important part. And so that internal intention is very, very important. And by that alone, it still doesn't manifest our reality. We can do that by an internal intention, but it will take us tremendous amount of work. And that internal intention is not just sitting in a room, meditating, visualizing, affirming, and feeling like it's already happened. It's also taking action. Intention, internal intention has to have action. And that action is following your intuitive process of, hey, what's go over here? Do I need to do something here? And in the action, it's really telling the universe or the quantum field that this is something really important to you and you're willing to work for it and do something about it. And so taking action, even just one small foot at a time, step in front of another, is really important because action is critical to anything in life. If you just sit there and meditate along, it's not going to get you there. So it's internal intention with all of that meditation of visualization, affirmations, and a feeling of knowingness of your goals. Then it's also taking a reality when you wake up, finding an action to do for that day. Even one small action a day is going to make a difference. And it's conveying to the universe that you have a true intention of what you want out of your life. Now, once we do that, the most important thing that people don't tell you is that you don't chase it. You have to now let it go and come to you. And that is a very different process than your internal intention of what you want. And what's really important is allowing the field to now to merge and to immerse itself and to merge out of it something that you really want to create. Is the field can only do that. You can't create anything in this world. You can think about it, you can make your hands do something, but creation really happens at the bigger scales from this quantum field that you can call whatever you want. It's an intelligence, or you call it God or whatever. But this field that is highly intelligent, we covered it in prior episodes, really is the ability to then manifest what you want. And what's really amazing, it comes in very different ways. So your job is not to is to allow it to happen, not to go force it to happen. And that's really, really important. So letting go and having the knowingness that will happen on its own accord is very, very critical. So how do you do that? Because to let go and to allow it to happen is really hard for us because we want to control everything. And allowing is important because it's like planting a seed in the soil. We can't keep digging it up to say, grow, grow, grow. Of course, we water it. We look at it every so often to make sure it's running right, growing right, but we don't dig it up. And that's really what happens when you chase something. When you chase something with your internal intention, you have to let it go, let it come to you. And so that's a very important process. Now, letting come to you is not all that has to happen. While you're letting it come to you, there's a knowingness. The knowingness is very much like on a cloudy day. You know, you look up and you know there's a sun behind it. You know it. You don't ever doubt it. You don't look at, see the clouds and go, that's my reality. You know that behind those clouds, there'll be a sunny day. You have a knowingness of that, and that's called a knowingness. It's not a belief system. It's a knowingness that behind the clouds, when the clouds go away, there'll be sun. So that letting go has to be followed by this faith, this knowingness. And faith is a knowingness. It's a deep-rooted knowingness that absolutely it's going to happen. It's already happened, and it's just waiting to just manifest in this physical reality. And it takes a while because the field has to organize many, many aspects of many, many parts of other people's realities and all the various parts of the universe to really then make your reality come true and your manifestation. So that's a very important aspect. So to repeat again, it's that inner intention with then letting go of the outer ability of the intention to happen, and then followed by faith and the inner knowingness. And then the most important part is when you repeat that inner intention over and over in your daily meditation, you're going to get to heart-brain coherence. Now, why is heart-brain coherence so important? Heart-brain coherence, and we know this from scientific studies now, that the heart has its own neural network, a very mini neural network like the brain. And that heart is attached to the field. And that heart has a true awareness of everything, but it's actually attached to the right side where we can feeling nature of everything of our brain. And the left side are analytical processes that think through all the reasoning and logic. And that's the part of the brain that has to make sure you really want it. So it actually decide, what do I really want from a logical level? And then the heart has to be aligned with what it wants. So for example, if the brain wants $1 billion and the heart goes, no way, it's not going to happen. Or the opposite, the heart wants $1 billion and the brain goes, no, it's not going to happen. Then it's not going to happen. Because the reality, the field wants to know that truly your mind and your heart is complete in coherence and alignment to what you really want. And so that knowingness, that faith is creating that the heart-brain coherence. And I talked about the Heart Math Institute that studies this phenomenon of the heart-brain coherence. And really, if you really want to get into it, you can look at that. But it's a very powerful concept that now you have to not only do all the meditations I talked about, the trusting, the knowingness, but you got to get to true knowingness inside between your heart and your brain and the knowingness of the heart and the brain agreeing that truly this is going to happen, and it's going to happen. It's already happened, and it's just waiting for it to come to you. So that's really the secret of manifestation. So now let me give you some examples of, while I can talk about just myself, let's bring up AI and ask AI really about basically what is some many aspects. So let's talk about number one, is that you have to have a positive mindset. Now, let's ask AI why positive mindset is so critical to manifestation. Having a negative mindset of saying it's not going to happen, or you're just angry or frustrated, is not what I'm talking about. That's not allowing this. In fact, that's having doubt and fear. A knowingness does not have doubt, and it does not have fear. It has a true faith and true belief and knowingness deep inside. Just like I talked about the cloud analogy, that the sun will appear. It's a knowingness that your intention is being realized. And just like you go to a takeout order, you put an order through, it's being worked on. And you know when you go pick it up, it'll be there for you. It's the same knowingness. So let's talk about why it's awesome to have that positive mindset. Gemini.
Hey there. What's on your mind?
So for manifestation, why is it so important to have a positive mindset versus a negative?
Okay, so the idea behind manifestation is that your thoughts and beliefs shape your reality. So if you're constantly focusing on negative thoughts, you're more likely to attract negative experiences. On the flip side, a positive mindset helps you focus on what you want to achieve, making it more likely to happen. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. So you see that even from AI is telling you the same thing. And I think more importantly, let's look at a classic book that I read very, very long time ago, written in the early 1900s by Napoleon Hill and funded by Andrew Carnegie, the guy who funded libraries all over the United States. And let's talk about why this is so important. This book, Think and Grow Rich, was fundamentally very important because it interviewed all of the richest people at that time to find out what were they doing that made them so rich. And you're going to be really, really, really incredibly mystified how important your belief system and your knowingness is to this. And that's really what the book showed, is that your attitude, your belief system, your thoughts create your reality. So let's talk about this book before we go into my own experiences. So Gemini.
Yes, go on.
So Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. Can you give us a summarization of what that's about? So Gemini, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, the book. Can you give us a summary of what that book's about?
So Think and Grow Rich is all about how your mindset and thoughts can influence your success. Napoleon Hill interviewed a bunch of super successful people and boiled down their secrets into a set of principles. It's not just about money, it's about achieving any goal you set your mind to.
And was it that he interviewed some of the top richest people at that time, like Ford and others?
That's right. Hill interviewed some of the wealthiest and most successful people of his time, like Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, and Thomas Edison. He wanted to understand their habits and mindsets to figure out what made them so successful.
And what were those habits and mindsets?
Well, it's a combination of things. They were all incredibly focused on their goals, had a burning desire to succeed, and weren't afraid to take risks. They also believed in the power of positive thinking and persistence. Hill called it the law of success.
But didn't they also have what they believed? For example, Hilton had hotels in front of him that he would always remind him and feel like he owned those hotels and so on.
Yeah, that's part of it. It's about visualizing your goals like they've already happened. If you want to own a hotel, you imagine yourself owning one, feeling the excitement and pride that comes with it. This creates a strong emotional connection to your goal, and it helps you stay motivated.
Thank you. So as you can see, even AI and Gemini is talking about exactly what I said. So the models have been trained by data scientists to actually take everything we know about the world and put those into AI models like Gemini and so on. So in conclusion, let me give you some experiences on my own about manifestation. As you know, in the past episodes, when I was looking to move and I was looking to leave Toronto area, I really wanted to get out of there. And I talked about that many times. And I had this great intention to move out of Toronto, but I just didn't know where. And I just didn't know how. But I had a knowingness that it was going to happen. And I could feel that knowingness that I didn't know when it would happen, but it would happen. So that time I had an offer to fly to the western part of the United States to do a startup. I really had this intuition, which I followed. I said, probably not going to take it because I'm not going to leave my family, but maybe there's something to this of this manifestation I've been wanting of leaving Toronto. And sure enough, I followed my intuition, which is very critical to this aspect of manifestation. I followed my intuition. I took action. I trusted that would unfold naturally, and I allowed it to come to me. And it certainly that job did offer come to me. And then I followed that offer to a whole new life that I live now on the West Coast, which has been incredible. My life here on the West Coast. So I have nothing but great blessings and gratitude from my movement. So that's an example. Now another example is when you don't allow it and you actually fear it and you create your inner intentions and you don't allow it to come to you. You don't have the knowingness. You have a lot of fear. You have a lot of doubt. You work hard at it. You go every day, but you're frustrated. You're angry. You're negative. That has a very, very reverse consequence to you. What it'll do is it'll push away whatever you want. You think you're trying to grab it, but you're really pushing it away. And I've had many experiences of that where I really wanted something. I went after, I worked really hard. I didn't allow it to come to me. And what happened would be I'd be very frustrated. And what would happen was it just wouldn't materialize what I wanted. And then when I just let it go and I would say, I give up, and then bingo, it'd show up. And so it's really true that, the outcome is based on many, many aspects of how you perceive reality. And to repeat, it starts with your burning desire that you translate to inner intentions. And your inner intentions are then done by meditation exercise I've talked about in other episodes. And then that meditations move into the concept of just letting go and allowing it to happen to you. And then having a knowingness and a faith that's going to happen. And then having that heart-brain coherence that allows it to be in alignment with the field to say, yes, field, I want this. And then taking action every day, because you have to take action to tell the field that you really are intentional of that. But then you let it go and let it come to you. And then most important, you trust your intuition and you follow your little actions, what you got to do next. If you suddenly have to turn left, you turn left. If you lift up a rock and you find something that says, go back 2 steps, you go back 2 steps. But you follow your intuition and it leads you finally, the path leads you in a zigzag way to your destination. And it's called flowing. The ability to flow like a river. You sit in the river and you flow with the river, and it takes you in a zigzag and all kind. But you finally get downstream of the river to where you want to go to. Unlike if you sit in the river and you hold still and you splash and you start to struggle with the river, what's going to happen is you're not going to go where you want to go. In fact, it could take you in different directions, or you can sink, or you can swim. Sink, or you can go in a different route completely when the river has to go, instead of allowing to flow in different routes where the river needs to take you. So with that, I hope you like this episode, and thank you for taking your time.